All righty. So, with me tonight for our next Prog Palaver here at ProgAlley.eu. And this is a special, great honor and special pleasure, great pleasure for me that tonight I have vocalist, guitarist, founding member, owner, sort of, and definitely the mastermind of Bunch Keys of Corvus Stone of the Colin Tench project. This is Mr. Colin Tench. Colin, good night, good evening. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, fine. It's really nice to hear you mentioning Bunch of Keys. So that's the beginning to now.
There's a lot of other projects, and I think we are going to talk about it in a couple of minutes, but it would take too much time if I mention all of them.
No, I know.
So probably my first question, when do you sleep, Guy? I mean, there shouldn't be much time to do that.
During the last 2 months of album release, almost none.
So that's what I thought, and that will lead to the first question I have. And again, thanks very, very much for having us tonight, because it's a pretty busy time for you, as you are just rolling out your actual album with the Colin Tench project, which is called Minor Masterpiece. You were so kind to send me some snippets of it, and I listened to a couple of prog radio stations already where your music was played. And don't know, on a scale from 1 to 10, if you can tell it like that, or more generally, how happy are you with the feedback that you have so far?
Totally. I've never been more happy. I mean, I'm not one of these that says this new album is better than the last album. Still, I never believe that. But everything we produce and actually release, we're totally happy with. And this has gone brilliantly. Just the lineup on this album is stunning for me. So it's raised the bar. You know, you can't half do it when you've got Joe Vitale on drums.
That's what I read, and when I was also the other guy. So it's one of my later questions, but let's stick there with this one. And I know Joe's there, and also Gordo is there from the Gore Music, and Peter Jones, which was on his gig in Glasgow last night, which I'd like to attend, but which is not possible. Sort of jumping from Germany to Glasgow for a weekend before Christmas. So Peter was there. Don't know this or some the other guys that were there, and describe a little bit how the contacts came. I don't know. Are you usually sitting in a bar and then just discussing the album? No, I think people are spread around the world a lot. So who else is on the album, and who did you come in contact with them?
It's all different ways. I mean, this is the funny world we're in because of Facebook. I mean, I bumped into Peter Jones by accident on Facebook, and we got a similar sense of humour. So I'm really proud that he's been working on this album and the previous one, because he's a genius, that guy. So that was luck. Gordo was also luck. He heard something that I put on YouTube. He loved it, stole it, added some music to it, and said, "I hope you don't mind. I've just done this." It's a great way to do music. Instead of advertising, we need a guitarist. We want to make a band. You just hear something that somebody's done and want to get involved, and that's pretty much how all of this has happened, including Joe Vitale. He heard the first album and said he would like to be involved in the next album, which is amazing. So all of the people involved, including the artist, are involved because they want to be, which is the best it can be.
It definitely isn't. Comes to that prog family thing, which happened. I think, especially because of the digital world, as you just mentioned. I mean, there's Facebook there, and there's other things there where you can get in contact with me and the radio. I mean, there would not be any prog radio internet stations about 10, probably 15 years ago. So that new world where everybody is complaining about has also its good impacts. So
exactly, there are pluses and minuses. progressive rock, there are more bands out there than fans these days, I think. It's really quite astonishing what's happened. But what it means is there's an awful lot of people that like music, whether they're playing it and or listening to it. Most of the bands are also buying albums of the other bands. So, it is a great time. But, of course, there's so much that quite often you don't hear all the things you might like because there's so much of it there. You might not get lucky to hear the thing you would most go for, But, of course, I could never be in contact with, say, with you or with any of these other musicians on the album if it wasn't for this, except for one person on this album, Joey Lugassi, who I knew from Bunch of Keys. So I know him for real for a long time. But the others, it's just luck, and it is because of Facebook and Prog Archives and places like that you can do this.
Yeah, right. Again, and same with me, and again doing the radio. And usually, if you've been a DJ a couple of years ago, you bought CDs or vinyl or MP3 at the end, but never getting in touch and contact with the artists.
No, that's right.
That's a good thing. And of course, I like it. I wouldn't be here as the DJ. The radio wouldn't be here if it wouldn't work like that. And I'm more happy that you know all these guys from the internet. Because again, that album is the three songs I heard are brilliant. Your last one was fantastic as well. And if it goes on in that direction, I'm more than happy. So about the album, Meine Masterpiece, can you tell us a little bit about the idea? I think, or I believe from what I can hear and see, that it's more or less a sort of a concept, isn't it?
It's funny, I never think in concepts, I never think in genres either. I don't think about progressive rock as a thing. I suppose, I often mention the Beatles, how they kind of ended up with a concept without trying to. And many bands back in the old days, in the early days of what we now call progressive rock, they weren't concepts either. And they were accused of being concepts. Quite often they weren't. They were just pieces of music. And they would, they went together nicely, and they have to come up with an album name, and they got lyrics, and one lot of lyrics may lead to another. And so, no, I do it that way. It's just see what happens. But saying that, it's music. I always like to think of the fact it's music. It's not a book. So basically, it's about the music, and it's nice when the music kind of it changes. It goes from it never gets stuck. It doesn't just sit there doing the same thing for a long time. There's no rules about what it's going to do next, what instruments you might be using, and with me, the music's always done first, totally recorded actually. Most of the tracks completely recorded before lyrics are even considered, and then sometimes lyrics work really nicely because of the music that's there in the first place. So. It's come out that way, a bit like a concept, but only in the old school way, as it was never planned that way. It just arrived there. It's a musical thing, not a lyrical.
Or a genius sort of thing that comes out of you, probably.
I don't know. It's not. I mean, music. We don't know what music is, do we? Really? We just like it. We do Absolutely. It. We like it. We hope people like it, and all of those things that. Appear to be completely illogical, but we all do it, and I don't even know. And as I say, I don't know much about music at all, which is a weakness and a strength. So I don't have any rules, and because we're not trying to get on commercial radio, again, no rules, and you just do it that way, and effectively. The music that people that like progressive rock came from exactly that notion that there aren't any rules. As in, there's no such thing as progressive rock either. The whole point of it was it didn't have any rules. It was just music, and it is what it is. And so that's what I do. And it's interesting. And when you're working with other people, they add something, and you can hear where that might go next, and that's the great thing about a band as opposed to a writer and a backing band, So everybody in this has made a massive difference. If you took any one person off this album, it would suffer badly, very badly. And that's how it should be.
That's how it should be. So then not summarize that, but if I understand you correctly, there was no idea about it. It's just if it comes to, I don't know, we look into the past one day in the future, and then it's just that what's coming out of Colin in 2017 or 16, and then he puts it together, all the other guys around, right time, right place, and then the minor masterpiece came out of it, or will come out of it. Which is a nice idea, at least. Nice thinking. I like that. Excellent.
It's like that. I mean, in many ways, you could say you could be at a party and meet, a bunch of people, and that is a thing that happens right then, and the whole conversation only happens because of those people happen to be in the same place, and it's the same with music, as far as I'm concerned. It's a combination of those people. At that time, and the result of that, and that's what's the most fun about it, so it doesn't have a professional, like a factory like a manufactured thing. It's not like that. It's more it's a conversation between people at that particular time. But in music, that's it really.
Yeah, conversation in the meaning of you make it and we are listening to it, which is a brilliant thing. And same with music, it's a little different, like a painting. I mean, the music is there, and 2 seconds later, it's done. Yeah, so you have to do it. You have to do it again, or it's not done anymore. Not like a picture that you have on the wall that can always listen to. So music's a very special thing in that specific moment, which I like the idea. I mean, if it's not good or bad, it's there, so you can't change it anyway. So. Yeah, brilliant. I really like and love the idea of doing it that way. Okay, so a little more specific, if you want to talk about the songs, is the artwork that is already released, and which I like the colors and the idea of it. It's that painting thing that I just talked about. I can go there and have a look many times, and always tells a little different story, and you see different things. So, did you do it yourself, or does anybody do it for you?
Sonia Mota, she's done all the artwork for Corvus Stone and for everything I've been involved in for 6 years or so now, and she did it. It's funny. She says she can't do any artwork unless she hears something that makes her do it. And so basically, the music was well on its way when she started doing that album cover. She's brilliant.
So she heard the music before. She didn't. I didn't get that.
She heard the music was progressing.
All right.
She was listening to I mean, she's the only one that hears, outside of the band. Nobody else hears any of it until it's done. And she was hearing it, and so it did affect what she did for the album cover.
So brilliant! I really like it. Especially the colors, which are a bit unusual. Yeah, not shiny colors, a bit defensive sort of, but fit very well together. So I like that. Eye-catching.
She does get it she gets the color from it, which is of course to me that doesn't make any sense, but it completely makes sense to her. So she's an artist in the true sense of the word. It's and it really works. I mean, every album cover she's done to me has been amazing.
Definitely. So, and that's for now it's the best because it's sort of new, and then again eye-catching. If you watch around Bandcamp or whatsoever, it's unusual sort of, and that I like most of it. Alrighty. So there's no official. I think there's no official release date, isn't it? Yet there is. Okay. So
there is an official release date, as in the 24th. Okay. It's just a week away for the digital album, and the CD I've said by the 30th of January, but I've got a feeling that some people will have it before that. We'll see. So we'll hit the dates, or we'll beat the dates. Right. So anyone who's already bought it, because some people are so kind, they bought well in advance, although I didn't suggest anybody did, and so as soon as I've got the CDs, they're going out the same day. And that's they're made in Germany, so they should be perfect.
Excellent. So I think it is next Sunday. It should be next Sunday. So my show is on Saturday night. So I'll at 12 midnight. I'm going to start the songs because it's the official and probably first official play then after release.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
Releasing date. Fantastic. So I even like that idea. Excellent. So besides the album, I mean, come a little bit to yourself. I believe you live in Sweden. Is that correct?
I do.
So
yeah.
And can you? But you're not Swedish, or are you Swedish?
No, I'm not Swedish. I'm English. I'm from London.
So can you tell us a little bit about your life and how it comes that you moved to Sweden, which I'd love to do because I love the country. I've been there a couple of times on a motorcycle, and how came that?
Yeah, it was progressive rock that caused it. A cheap flight to Sweden to see Pain of Salvation, who to me are one of the best bands ever. That band is incredible. So came to see them, and that was the only reason that I came to Sweden. I had no intention of even visiting, let alone moving here. Just in the 4 days of being here, I was just completely blown away. This is such a great place to be. So it's like the undiscovered secret of Europe. There's so much space. There's wild animals everywhere and lakes and trees. It's just incredible. So it was luck. And then of course I found out the Flower Kings live just down the road in the other direction. And you got Beardfish in another direction. I mean, there's so many great bands just I could get to now from here. The Pain of Salvation is one of them. So pretty amazing.
And then you just decided to I'm going to live here because it's so nice. I mean,
yeah.
It sounds a little weird. Okay.
Well, it's just I did plan to move out of London. The idea was to stop working and move away from London, move somewhere great. And of course, when England was normal and wanted to be part of the EU, we could go where we wanted, and so I did.
And that's
I was lucky I escaped before they shut the door.
Yeah, but it's a great place to be. Where is it in Sweden where you live?
Not far from Stockholm. It's central, sort of north. So I've got proper snow, which I like. I like the snow. I find it funny when people don't like the snow. I think, okay. I like skiing, you see, so that's...
So is there mountains available? No.
Skiing, I can get to skiing within 45 minutes, and it's pretty good. It's not like going to California, but it's good, or Austria or something. It's not like that, but it's good, yeah. And the snow, I enjoy the snow. It's fun. I like like in music, really, a big change from that to that,
Yeah, that I can believe. Excellent. So that's a nice story. So if we go back a little bit in time, how did you come to music? I don't know. Can you describe us a typical day in the 12-year-old Colin? So
in the 12-year-old Colin.
Oh, the 12-year-old Colin. How did you make any music by then already?
It's funny. I mean, 12. That would have been when I started a grammar school. A big school, and that's the first time we had some music class. And the first thing they told us was, none of you will be any good at this, so you probably won't do this. We were told that because we were at a grammar school, so they wanted us to do maths and proper subjects, physics and chemistry and everything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested, not at all. But saying that, I did nothing but listen to music. I mean, I really, from the age of probably from as first I was even aware of anything, I'm told that I used to have my head against the speaker. It was mono then. So the speaker, I'd actually have my head against the speaker listening to whatever it was. It didn't matter if it was, Frank Sinatra or whoever. But of course the Beatles was a big eye-opener. That was the biggest thing that happened. So I've always liked music, but I didn't ever attempt. I did play a drum once. I was in the Sea Cadets, and I became the main drummer. So I did do that. I've always loved music. But of course, the trouble is, when you're interested in progressive rock, which is effectively what everything was back then, everything in the late 60s was progressive rock, just about, They were all amazing. These are all highly trained. In those days, a lot of these people in the bands were highly trained. Yes had Rick Wakeman. They've always got somebody in there who really knows what they're doing. Genesis, they knew what they were doing. And so it's just to some kid, you're watching this, you think, well, I'll never be able to do that. It's like the Olympics. So I didn't do anything. I did nothing. I just watched and listened.
Well, which is a good start. And then, a drum is not good for composing, I believe. And then you start playing the guitar. When was that? What age?
21.
21.
But that's usually the time when people start thinking about retiring. And I was just starting to think about trying to play the guitar a bit. Yeah.
I think Zappa did as well. He started late as well. So
it can happen. I don't know. I mean, I didn't play anything until then, but I think I had what it was, I used to go and see bands all the time. And back in those days, the first band I saw was Focus, who, of course, virtuosos, they're just amazing. And that was the first band I saw close up, ever. And, of course, I saw most of these great bands, sometimes in very small places, And then as time went on, I noticed there were some bands that were really boring and predictable. And I started to think, I could do that. if they could play like that and get an audience, I could do that. I'm sure I could learn that. I wasn't trying to learn to be, like Ian Ackerman or Steve Howe, or Paul McCartney. I knew, forget it, But it's almost like that, really, because music started to dumb down. Yeah. Even in the early 70s, it started happening. To me, Deep Purple dumbed down, I thought. After Deep Purple in rock, and so I kind of thought, well, I'm sure anyone could learn how to play Smoke on the Water, and so maybe this is doable. Maybe I could try and learn a bit, and that's where I think the dumbing down of music made me think I'd have a go at this. I'm sure that's what triggered it in the end,
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting open view. So, like you were Swedish from the beginning, yeah. Green fields, no limits. That sounds a little bit like that. Excellent. I like the idea of having that. Okay, so thanks for that one. Let's come back a little bit or not back. Let's talk about your other projects. I mean, we have this the Colin Tench project, which we have the minor masterpiece out there. By the way, Hair in a G-String from last year was one of my top albums there. It was so brilliant.
Wow.
And then you saying you're topping it with minor masterpiece, which the first three songs I heard, I can believe it. So that's fantastic. But you always also have your other projects. Corvus Stone is I think the biggest one. Bunch of Keys, the work with Ocean's 5.
That's it. Yeah.
So I don't know anything else, and not anything else, but how do you make that? I mean, you described this a little bit before, how music came into you and then it's coming out of you, and you're writing music and then going to lyrics. Do you have a clear idea what projects you are doing it for? Or, I don't know, do you say now it's Colin Tench project time and then I do it for that?
I don't. They've all been different situations. Corvus Stone, for instance, I'd say the majority of the music was actually started by Pasi Koivu, who is the keyboard player. He would send endless amounts of music to me, and I would work with those. And so Corvus Stone, you could say almost the main writer was Pasi. So that was a different thing to do. I was the producer, and I would do all kinds of things with what he had started, Colin Tench project, I started all. So basically I've written everything. So it's a whole different world. And so I don't have to think about where it goes. Ocean's 5 was started by effectively as a folk singer, really, although he loves progressive rock, and so that was kind of doing interesting things to acoustic music, and it was a great fun, really, So they're very different things, but I know that people say that they always recognise it when it's me.
Yeah, sort of they can. I mean, I'm not a guitar player, but I already can also hear when you are playing or have an idea. And say, is that Colin? And then if I have a look to the credentials, and they say, there's Colin Tench with it, which is fantastic. You're also doing some stuff with Nick and the Minstrel Ghost in the meantime.
That was back when we did the first Cool Stone album. I met him again, internet. You know, it was in a chat room in a radio station somewhere, and he asked me if I'd like to play guitar on his album. He was still making, and so that was an interesting time because it was the beginning for me. I told you I started playing guitar late, but then I stopped again. I stopped 25 years, didn't touch guitar for 25 years. So I came back effectively because of the internet and because we were releasing the Bunch of Keys album 25 years after it was made, and. So it was a strange time. The first Cool Stone album, at the very same time, Blake contacted me and said, "Would you like to play guitar on the Road to Avalon for Minstrel's Ghost?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'd like to try, you know." And that was really good. That was really interesting. It was, again, it was like it was fun, and to me, they were all like way better than I was. So I had to really, try and raise myself up to that bar.
And you did, finally, I can tell.
Yeah,
you did.
It worked. I mean, in the end, I think with every album that I've been involved in, everyone has to like it. Nobody in the band can go, well, I don't quite like that. That's never happened. So it's crucial that everybody likes it, because if only one person likes it, it possibly means there's something wrong with it. So it's always been a combination of, say, like a proper band, even though a lot of these people I've never met. I've met Peter, but I haven't met a lot of people. So, and in Ocean's 5, I did meet some of them, which is nice, including, we had a singer from Pink Floyd, Lorelei McBroom, who used to be a touring singer with Pink Floyd.
Yep.
We met her, and so that was great to meet somebody that amazing. So I don't know what's going to happen next. You never know what's tomorrow,
Well, that comes up then to my last question. So let it leave it with that one. I think you recently just gave one song to the Animal Welfare Sauerland thing, where the guys that are taking care of animals in Greece and in Hungary just got that. So how did that contact came in?
Well, again, it is to do with the internet, to do with the music, obviously, the kind of music we make, and these other bands. You mentioned Gandalf's Fisticles, he's one of them. And it's, again, you hear them, and it's nice to know them. And when there's an excuse to get together and do something, then it's really nice to do, especially if it's a good thing. Peter's always sort of raising money by releasing music. And so, with that one, that was Pat Ganger Saunders that contacted me, and I was like, yeah, I'll have a go at that, please. And it's nice. Well, you know about these bands, but it's nice when you're in contact with them in some way. You kind of it makes you listen a little bit more, find out really who they are. So it works in many ways.
Yeah. Excellent. Gandalf's Fist and Stefan, Dean and Ben was my first interview, by the way.
Okay.
So, I have it here still.
You know him better than I do.
Sorry?
You know him better than I do, even though I'm on a song with him.
Yeah, but
that's a strange thing. So a DJ knows a musician better than another musician who's playing on a song with that musician. This is the new world that we're in.
But we're not complaining, as we just started the interview. No. We declare that as a good thing. And definitely it is. So I like the idea. And Also the idea of meeting or meet one day for a beer, and then bring in all this virtual digital thing to a vital analog, and I don't know, at the end probably alcoholic thing whatsoever. So even the idea is great, and great knowing people there and know that I can go there and have a beer with them. And well, let's see if it happens. I hope it would happen with many of them. But well, let's see. Again, at least the idea is a nice imagination and a good feeling when I'm here on my microphones in the nights, and knowing that there's people out there listening and making music that I can play it. So that's about this Prog family thing. And
it is. And you know, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but Radio Luxembourg. We didn't have Facebook then. We had Radio Luxembourg. It was like every night we could receive it in England, and of course I think everybody I knew was listening to Radio Luxembourg at the same time, obviously, and so it's always gone on. That little club, that little proper music, real music, people. Good music, and it was only coming from Radio Caroline, the famous pirate station, and Radio Luxembourg, and Europe had that kind of. For some reason, Europe was more go-ahead than Britain was, so they were sending us all this great music on the radio. You even had English DJs over there, working in France and other places, sending us our music back to England.
Yeah, strange.
Because the BBC wasn't playing it, So even then, you could say it was the same kind of thing happening. Through DJs, you kind of connected up with the music that you didn't know about and learnt about. Who else was involved? I think even the bands back then were listening to it to see what was going on. That was like the news. So we had that instead of Facebook, and it worked.
It worked brilliantly. Not spread internationally like today. I mean, we have listeners in Mexico, in Australia, even, and India, and around the world, Europe, of course. So this is it's a step further. But of course, it started back in that time, and if people are if things are a little illegal and like they were, I think in the past, they make it be an interesting for people, but we are on a legal way now, and it's still interesting. So that's very good to see. And again, I wouldn't be here, probably you wouldn't, without this new world we have. So
give you a quick rundown of who's in this band and see and how crazy it is.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm you know who I am. You got Joe Vitale, who's drummer with Joe Walsh. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and he's drummed with everybody, including John Lennon. So he's, you name it. So he's and he's in America. We got Gordon Bennett, who's used to have a Rush cover band, and he's a virtuoso guitarist, but he doesn't play guitar on the albums at all because he's brilliant with orchestration. He understands classical music. So we've got a lot of that in the albums, both of these albums. We've got Petri Lindstrom, who's a great Black Sabbath fan, who's also a virtuoso on bass guitar and lives in Finland. We've got Peter Jones, who was on X Factor 15 years ago, and he lives in England, and he's much younger than the rest of us. You couldn't put these people together. How would you do this? We've got a cello player in Los Angeles who he does artwork for people, including Disneyland. He's a professional musician and artist. Christo Polani, who was a drummer in Air Supply, a soft rock pop band who've been around 40 years now, who are from Australia. You could not put these people together. It's impossible. And also our artist is from Mozambique.
Fantastic.
And didn't know much about progressive rock at all. Except once she started listening and realizing how amazing it was. So, I mean, it's to me, it's incredible. What a band. And how could you do that before? It's impossible.
Absolutely. So again, we like our life or our nowadays life a lot and very much. So if it comes to that point, let me ask you that question. If you are happy or if you want to answer. So with all this digital stuff and sending music around the world and doing it in home studios, can you tell us a little bit what equipment you're using for that?
Very little. Very little. I'm quite pleased when I see how exactly they made Sergeant Pepper. It was done with a piece of string and a lot of time,
right?
Sellotape. And I do it. I work exactly the same way. I've got no equipment, but I don't want any. In many ways, I don't use any automation. It's digital because, of course, it makes the most sense to do it that way, as in recording onto a computer and mixing on a computer, but don't use any automation at all. It's all done by hand, pretty much the way it would have been in a studio years ago. Peter is the same. Again, Peter Jones, he does it pretty much the old way. He's blind. So in many ways, digital might be helpful for him, but he still doesn't do that. He still does it with tapes. Why not? If the result is great, there's no such thing as better than, you can't improve on Close to the Edge or Sergeant Pepper. You can't improve on any of those things. You make that thing, and they made it with nothing, with no technology. So technology to me would just get in the way. It would mean I'd have to learn stuff, so I don't do it. Everybody in the band is different. Joe Vitale, he's got his own setup. He doesn't need to because he's a permanent touring drummer. I mean, obviously, but he's got the interest to have his own setup and understand very well how to record drums and get a brilliant sound. And that's quite a skill. So everybody in the band has got their own way of doing it and their own technology. Weirdly, I am the one who mixes everything, but I've got no technology.
Well, but therefore the result is fantastic.
The result is musical. I think it's not technical. It's not polished to hell. It just sounds pretty much like it would have done. Some people say, well, we're a bit like 70s, but not, and that's the reason.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. I mean, it happens, especially with the. I think it's. I don't know. That's not a musical conversation, but there's a lot of things going back. I mean, there was this belief in the new world and new technologies and things. But as moving from London, where everything is sort of digital, and going back to the woods and sort of woods and doing your own wood for the fireplace and so on, and people buying healthy food again and cook again instead of going to a fast food restaurant. So the time's going back a little bit, which is a very good sign
feels
for
better.
all of us.
It feels, we're all the same. It just feels better.
Absolute.
So music is a funny thing. When it starts to become controlled and designed, too designed, it can kind of ruin the whole point of it. It doesn't. It stops being what it is. It's a bit like getting I suppose. One of the problems I find, you talked about the album cover. A lot of people will think that it's easy to do that with technology, but Sonia doesn't use any technology to do that. It takes her ages to do it. But people can't tell the difference anymore. Maybe they can because it looks quirky. But anyone can produce a nice picture. Just get it off the internet. Change it a bit, and it's your nice picture, People, and unfortunately, it means that people don't really get blown away by watching a movie anymore, or seeing a picture, or hearing some music, because they know that it's easy. Fact is, when it's done for real, it's a lot more impressive. We all know that. We can tell. It's like making an old car. They really made those old cars. New cars, well, it's pre-designed and bang, 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 done. And it doesn't have any appeal, really, except for the thing that it does, takes you somewhere.
Well, this I'm German, so don't
Oh,
don't tell
yes,
me
that's
how
terrible.
people treat their cars like little babies, which I'm not. I don't have a very shiny car, but I think this wheel you can't pull back. I think come in the electric stuff and so on,
Oh,
it
no,
gets more
no.
and more technology. Yeah.
Technology is always a good thing, but you need, but the trouble is amongst the maze of technology which isn't much use, there's the good bits, and I use the good bits. Electricity, I find, is quite good.
That's right. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, let's come back to music a little bit
Okay.
before we finish. What bands are you listening to besides your projects, if you have any time? It should be
Every now
not
and
much.
again, I mean, there's so many bands, but every now and again, one jumps out. And back in the late '90s, when many people thought that progressive rock was a thing of the past, it just wasn't happening. I discovered Spock's Beard, and then I discovered Dream Theater, and one thing led to another, and I was like, wow, it's back. You know, the real thing is like, where did that come from? So that was the beginning of discovering that things were back, and then it was Aryan. Actually, I very early on discovered Aryan. It's like, again, wow, and then pretty quickly I found the Flower Kings and Pain of Salvation, and and then of course Stephen Wilson, you know, Porcupine Tree. It's like, oh my God, it really is as good as it gets, you know, with all of this stuff. You put it all together, I think, wow. But every now and again, someone really jumps out, and all of those bands did, all of them. So you could say Neil Morse, you know, is incredible. Peter Jones is the most recent one for me. Tiger Moth Tales. When that happened, I thought, well, you know what? You know, years and years of nothing special really, and he turns up. All of those ones I've just said were the most outstanding ones. Prior to that, for years, I was only, as far as newer stuff, I was only really listening to Al Di Meola and Frank Zappa. You know, from the 80s onwards, when, as far as I was concerned, the so-called progressive rock had gone. I wasn't interested in any of it, and it all became heavy metal and, you know,
Grunge thing.
Well, yeah, it separated out into its own little thing. So I mentioned Deep Purple in Rock. Deep Purple in Rock was such an incredible album, and so many albums before that also, they were really unique, you know, and all the uniqueness had gone, I found. So you know, so during that time, I discovered Al Di Meola, and it's like, oh my God, you know, he just blow any rock band off the planet, you know, because when you go and see that, the original Al Di Meola rock band, you know, they were just mind blowing. And then I discovered Zappa. I was late on discovering it. So, but prior to that, you know, Pink Floyd. I mean, you don't get to a Pink Floyd concert, and you're never going to see anything better than a Pink Floyd concert.
No.
You know, you do walk away from that going, what just happened?
Yeah.
And it really is like that. You know, I never saw the Beatles. Think, you know, oh God, you know, but they're probably the best band in musical history because they created so much and caused so much to happen. And what they did, you know, themselves, it's just phenomenal what they did. And they opened the door for all of us, for everybody. You know, they really did. So, so they're the big ones. But of course, Yes and Genesis, I've seen them all. I mean, they're amazing. Focus to me, they're one of the best. Was one of the best rock songs ever. Hocus Pocus, you know.
Definitely. No, I agree.
Just brilliant. I mean, that's the way to do, isn't that a way to do a rock song? Oh, God. No rules. Everyone went, what? What's going on? Yodeling?
Yodeling, yeah, that's it. And fun. Really fun in rock music, which was unusual.
Yeah, and then you watch, you think, Christ, they're playing fast. And it's drums, constant drum solos all the way through it. You think, yeah, this is great stuff. So, you know, favourite bands is hard to know, but I always say that everything from Frank Sinatra to Frank Zappa can be brilliant. It depends. But I've never been interested in what you call popular music, never. It's all a bit empty, you know. I like musical content. I know that most people can't listen to Dream Theater all day. I can. Most people like I think, content without the content getting in the way. which is why the old bands were so good at it. They knew how to do that, you know. If you listen to Black Knight, it just sounds like a great song. But then you listen to it more and more, you realise what's really going on in there. And that's a great way to do music, to my mind, you know. Immediately grab somebody, but then when they listen to it 10 times and 100 times, it's just as well as it was the first time. So any band that can do that, and there aren't that many.
Great answer. I like that. So let me ask you that question. Of all your songs that you ever produced, which one would you like to have a cover by whom?
Oh, well. Oh. Well, yeah.
Well, you can send me an email next week with it. No
That's
reason
a hard
to
one. I tell you, we have got one. We have got one, which no one's heard yet, and everyone's going to be surprised. I'd love to hear. I know I'd love to hear cover it, and it's Jack Black. You know, Tenacious D.
Yep.
We got Peter Jones, which he was black. He's Jack Black too.
Okay.
But I don't think he's ever recorded anything quite like it. So I think, to be honest, to hear Jack Black doing this one, this is from the new album, I think that would be something special. My God. But anything, actually, you know, to hear somebody do a proper cover and really try and play what was played, that would be something. But you've got to be pretty liked for that to happen. So you said that would be such a great thing if it happened. I don't know if it ever will. We hope.
Well, we can ask for it. So, as you said, or as we said, the Prog's a great family, or a big family. So, might be a challenging thing to do, even probably for a DJ asking some people to do covers of others. So let's see what I can come up with. When I once get famous, I might ask that from the musicians, or probably from the listeners, just singing along and being on the phone and doing that. So let's see. I have a couple of ideas, but well, all right, fair answer. Anyway, so
I tell you, it would be interesting to see if anybody could cover a Corpus Stone track. That would be strange. That would be hard to do, and I don't know if anyone could do it. Not that we're that clever, but they're so different.
Yeah, it is. I'll ask Stefan from the Gandalf's Fist guys. Probably they could think of it. Let's see when I once meet them, we can make anything out of it. So. The personal plans for the future to come to an end, sort of. What's your next steps? Do you do any gigs or any more albums with the other projects? So what's the mid and or near and mid future plans of Colin Tench?
I've been involved in more album releases than I can even count in the last 5 or 6 years. So you know, we're talking 7, 8 albums. I mean, a lot of albums. And I need a break from that, so I'm trying to make sure this album we're releasing now is as good as it gets, and just it creates attention. Basically, there's two routes. Some people will just do gigs and get a following, and then start recording. This is the old way, isn't it? But I'm doing it the other way around. We hope to actually get some attention with the albums. If they're liked, and that's, you know, it's the way it is. If people can hear it, and if enough people like it, that can lead to something. And I know that Joe Vitale would do it as far as going out there, but of course it wouldn't be cheap because he's in America. I'm in, you know, Sweden, all over the place. It wouldn't be easy. But we'll see. We'll have to see. It depends totally on the success of these albums. You know, to provide some sort of backing to do that.
Yes, of course. Unfortunately, I mean, that's really an unfortunate thing because this music should be played live, definitely.
Oh, some of the tracks that we've got, yeah, absolutely. We've got such great live tracks. I know this, you know, from album 1 and this new one as well. So I live in hope. And anyway, we'll see. We'll see. That's the hope. We just need to get more attention. But I'm glad to say we survived at number 2 for the whole of last year. We're still at number 2 for number 2 album of the year on Prog Archives.
Yeah. So and well, fingers crossed that it stays like that, and I'm pretty sure it will. And again, we need to spread the word for this kind of music. I mean, Prog Archives is one of the big voices in the prog world, so that's a very good sign. But there's also many small voices, and they. Again, I heard your music in a couple of radio stations already, and that's a good thing that people get known to it wherever they live in the world. So again, I'm more than happy with your output. Love it already, what I know of it, and next week comes the rest, hopefully, and then we'll have it entirely here. So
I'll make sure you get it in time.
I remember you. If it's not here by next Saturday, so that I can play it. Or you send it at midnight, and then it's played sort of live in my show, which would be excellent. So, Colin, anything left that you'd like to tell our listeners and your big fans there? So, links in the internet, for example, where we can find you.
Well. The website we use is the Culver Stone website, but I mean, if you just Google Colin Tench, you're going to come up with this very quickly anyway. But obviously, we try and be as many places as possible. But I'm on Facebook, and the Colin Tench project is on Facebook, and so is Culver Stone. I've got the website, which covers both of those, and it covers Oceans 5. So we're all covered with the website. That's important to have that. We've got that. So it's. And a good place to see reviews, to see what other people are talking about, is look in Prog Archives, and whoever else will review it. But that's a big centre for it, of course. So yes, that's, and also radio stations like you. I mean, you're really helpful. Without this would be nowhere at all. As you say. It's all down to people hearing this, and if DJs are listening as well as playing, that they're going to find things, and you found out through that method. So I'm really pleased. So thank you for that. And I love your show. I really do. I wish I could get to it more often. I've been so damn busy, but it's nice to just sit back and listen to somebody else choosing what to play.
Yeah, it should not be routine to do it. It's not even with me. It's a thing that happens if it happens, like your music, and if not, I'm not podcasting many or much of it, just because of that. Be there or don't, and then it's fine. And there's another week and the next week coming. So that's the meaning of all that. Colin, thanks a million for being with me and with us tonight. Thank you very, very much. Good luck. Lots of fun with the Minor Masterpiece. And, as the first song of your new album says, see how it runs, or see how she runs. That's the name of the song. Yeah, but so let's tell your album a she. Again, Colin, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And I'll speak to you again.
Alrighty, then now we are here at the second part of our interview session with Mr. and Master Colin Tench. Deepo's here on my side again. Colin, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Fantastic. So let's do the friend, or who is this friend of Larne questions. First and most common questions of all time is, and you can ask it shortly because you just did it in the interview. Who are your favorite bands?
Favorite bands. Most important bands in history are probably the Beatles and Pink Floyd. Favorite bands currently. I always say Pain of Salvation and Tiger Moth Tales now. I used to love Dream Theater. But Yes and Genesis, phenomenal, but I said about Focus, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. For some reason, it sounds like they're all old bands, but they had something, they had some, don't know what it is about what they did. They did something amazing in the early days, every single one of them. All of them did the best, at the beginning, if you like, So as far as current favourite bands, I mean, Stephen Wilson is probably the best thing that's come out in the last, couple of decades. Everything he does, pretty much, so Porcupine Tree. And the rest, there's a whole ton of bands. It's amazing. There's a lot of them, so I can't say anymore.
No, fair enough. That's enough. Known bands, and of course they must be there on the favorite list of bands. So thank you for that one. Next one, probably a bit more difficult. Probably not. If it comes back to prog, what was is the best prog year in history, and why?
You kind of got to say 67 because of Sgt. Pepper, because that opened the doors for prog. That made all record companies and radio stations have to give in and allow prog. So that created the possibility for everybody else. So that was the most important year to me in many ways. But of course, as far as years, I mean, when you get Court of the Crimson King, you don't get really better than that, do you? The years, and I suppose in the early 70s, a lot of bands turned up, a lot of bands that we wouldn't have heard of. I've mentioned Focus. They got a hearing, I mean, it wasn't so easy for a band from Holland to get known, so as well as they did, So around about the early 70s, I would say, was the biggest exploding years of progressive rock. Uriah Heep turned up, and carried forward what I thought that Deep Purple were going to do. Uriah Heep did it instead. There was a whole load of bands at that time that came along, and some of these great guitarists appeared, like I suppose all the Steves: Steve Howe, Steve Hackett, Steve Hillage.
That's a good one.
Luckily, we got Steve Vai later on, and Steve Morse. So
Steve Wilson.
Steves.
Steve Wilson's there.
Steve Wilson, yeah, exactly. So if it wasn't for Steve's, we'd have very, very few guitarists anywhere.
That's a new way of looking to that. I like the idea. Excellent. So thanks for that, Colin. Do you have the favorite album? Is there such a thing exist in your life or in your cupboard?
It's a hard one. I've always put Moving Waves as one of my top 10, always, and it still is, which is Focus. Abbey Road could be the perfect album. The White Album could also be the perfect album. And Dark Side of the Moon and Animals, Close to the Edge. It's really hard to say. But
Absolutely.
All of those, they're all obvious albums, but they weren't just because they were the first of that kind or anything. They just, to this day, they were brilliant albums. Everything about them. So, yeah, that's the best ones right there, I think, to me. Deep Purple in rock. See, if you want a rock album, it's hard to beat that one. Or Zeppelin 2, something about those early albums that was you can't say they could have done it better, and they weren't predictable. I like Very Heavy, Very Humble, and Look at Yourself. Uriah Heep, and the first and the only album of Roxy Music. That was it. The first album, that one, just phenomenal. They didn't. They changed it after that, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did, and split right after as well.
Split. Oh, I was going to say Split. Actually, the Groundhogs split back. While you're on the subject of Split, that album made me sit up and look. The Groundhogs, yeah. So a whole load of stuff.
Yeah, excellent. Fair enough. So, do you have any band shirts, and which is the oldest band shirt that you still own in your cupboard? Do you know it, and what year it is from?
I've got to think if I don't look after things well enough. Probably I've got a Santana one. It's probably the oldest one I've got. I haven't mentioned Santana at all, and I should have done. They're amazing. What a band! My God, Yeah, probably the Santana one actually. Yeah.
So do you remember the year when it's from?
No, it's going to be late. I haven't got anything from back then. I just haven't. Not from the good old days. I wasn't clever enough to realise you should keep hold of these things. You know, that goes for a synthesizer I sold, a Gibson SG I sold, stuff that I should never have sold.
Yeah. You always you only know afterwards when it's gone. Yeah. I know this feeling. I know very well.
Now. Back then it was like, yeah, I don't need that anymore. Sell it. You know, stupid.
Well, yeah, don't worry. I mean, it's gone. So it's like music. It's gone and it's not there anymore. So you have to do it again to to have it again. So wonderful. More serious, well, not serious question, but. Usually, as a non-musician, have probably another view to music as the musicians have, and for me, it's 70-80% feeling than technology. So, I don't know. Do you remember the last time that you think the music was so good that you had tears in your eye? Sort of. Can you remember that one?
Oh, that's hard to know. I'm going to say this again with Tiger Moth Tales. A couple of the tracks on Cocoon, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought, wow, this is back, you know. And yeah, probably that, the most recent, because it just had the same effect as you know. I remember listening to Wind and Wuthering constantly when that came out, Genesis.
Yeah.
And you know, you just like, oh my God, this is just so good. And Tiger Moth Tales does that. It does what Wind and Wuthering used to do, you know. Yeah. So hard to know. And the big one was when it came back. I said when it came back, and it was Change of Seasons, Dream Theater. When I heard that, I was stunned. Nothing that happened through the 80s or 90s got close to that.
Yeah.
That took me right back to great music, you know. So Change of Seasons was a pinnacle of Dream Theater. I know that one side for our younger listeners, that's on a record. One side was a track of their own, and the one side was all covers, and the covers were mind blowing. So that was the biggest thing because it happened on its own. It was one thing that happened, and then I heard the light, Spock's beard, same thing.
Yeah, excellent. Can fully understand that one. Next one's a bit easier, probably. What is your favorite drink when you're listening to prog music or music in general?
I drink coffee, you know. I hardly ever drink.
Brilliant.
I don't. Yeah, really, I don't. Doesn't make it. Well, you know, there's a strange thing about being from England, pubs being such a big thing in England, and bands tend to play in pubs. But it's of no interest to me playing in a pub and having a drink.
Well, so you did not consciously move into Sweden. You had to because they were kicking you off the country, isn't it? It's so unusual.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's funny. It's quite easy here because they look down on drinking.
Yeah.
So luckily, I don't even take any notice. It means nothing. So, no, coffee.
Yeah, it's good, fair enough. Like me, I mean, Nick Katona, I think, is the best coffee drinker in the world. But I'm.
Oh well, that's you, Nick, and Frank Zappa.
Yeah, Frank probably, yeah, as well. Yeah. But I also had to do a couple a day, and to start without one in the morning. That's that typical stereotype guy. I can't do anything without one. So brilliant. So let's the next one. Not probably. What artist would you spend a day with, and why?
You mean just to be with them?
Well, to be with them, go around, hanging around, talking. I don't know. Your favorite artist, so probably that you'd like to have a day with.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Damn, I know it will come to me as soon as I stop talking to you. No. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
any number, but very hard. They're all such nice people, actually. So he'd be the number one. Very hard. No, I don't know. I actually don't know.
Well, Frank Zappa's a good answer. I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately,
I mean, John Lennon. Clearly, I'd love to hang around with John Lennon. I think David Bowie would be quite hard to be with, but I would kind of like to have encountered him at some point, just to see what it'd be like to chat with.
That's the meaning of this question, though. So who could you think of spending a day with? Probably, or usually there might be 200, but there probably might also be that one guy.
I'm trying to keep it pretty simple, and I would say Zappa and Lennon would be the two I'd most like to and George Harrison actually as well.
Yeah. I would join you if you invite me. Then please, if you have the guys together, I'd like to be around for a minute.
That would be a party, wouldn't it? Yeah, that would be nice.
I think so.
Oh, God.
I think they are more tea drinkers, but that should not be a problem then. All right. So two more, if you don't mind. Your first concert that you attend as a listener and spectator. Can you remember that and what year it was?
Well, it all happened in the same week, and it was Alex Harvey, amazing Alex Harvey band, and Focus, and it would be 71 or 72. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, which is.
And my stupidest decision was not going to see Deep Purple, supported by Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, of course, back in the Oh Well days. Not to see them when I was about 15. My God.
Yeah.
I never saw either of those bands in my life, so, two of the ones I missed. And there I was, I could have been there around about the Black Knight days and Oh Well, but I didn't. In a local town, not in London.
Well, it must be far back in time. Yeah, there's this concerts that you did never attend, but I think the two that you did were exciting as well. Back in '72 must be special.
Imagine that, yeah. To see Focus. I mean, the crowd, the audience. It was the Marquee in London, and the audience. They were talking. They put Hocus Pocus on the tannoy, and somebody said, apparently this band plays this. And we're all going, no, nobody could play that. It's impossible. I'm not kidding. We're all going, no, they can't be played. And then they came on, played it even faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old days, good old days.
I really remember that happening. There was a track back in the late 60s that came out called Sabre Dance. And people used to think there was some tricks being played there because it couldn't be played. The next time I ever remember that ever happening was, as I say, at that gig of Focus, when people were saying, no, that can't be done. So there you are. Yeah.
Wonderful. So that's 72. I was 7 by then, so I would not have been allowed to see Focus.
Okay.
So there was good and bad things happening in the last 40 years of music business, I believe. Mainly bad, but probably a couple of good things. And for me, the best thing happening during the last years was the revitalization of vinyl records. Do you still remember your first one, and do you still own it?
I think I might do, actually. I got Sgt. Pepper second hand, off of somebody, some other kid. And that was my first actual album, yeah. I think the next album I owned was the White Album, which I bought over a period of 2 months. It took me 2 months to save up for it.
Yeah, of course.
£3, 14 shillings and 10 pence it was. I remember that fact. Yeah, I used to go down the shop every week and give them a bit more money until I finally could buy it and have it.
Yeah.
So I had some records, some singles, but I only had Sgt. Pepper and then that one. So after that, I don't know what happened next, but that all grew. It was the good old days. They were a lot of money, weren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can remember that as well. So my first records were bought by my grandma because I had no money at all. So and for her, it was good because I was following her, seeing the city, which usually I wouldn't attend. But and she said, "There's probably one or two records for you." So I was walking with her all day, which was really good old days. I remember them quite frequently and like them still. Alrighty, one last one, if you don't mind. Are you listening once in a while to different prog radio stations? Which one are that?
Yes, I try. I mean, if I get the time, it depends what's on that night or that day, because some of them are on at very silly times.
They are.
Because they're American or something,
Yeah.
West Coast America especially. So, of course, I think a lot of them have gone to ProgZilla, so a lot of it used to be Air Radio, and a lot of the DJs have ended up under the ProgZilla umbrella, or there's the House of Prog, and then of course your as I still think of it as like your Radio Luxembourg when you're on.
Well,
Is that laid back?
That
nice
makes me
feel,
red. No, my face.
No, it's
Excellent.
great. I really do like it because they've all got different approaches, as you know. Some will talk all the time. Some will. The music might be not so varied. It's all one kind of progressive rock, and so on and so on. But yours is just got the right feel. I really like it. I think if it was mainstream, if you were mainstream, late night radio, you'd be totally you'd be the guy. So that's the way it comes across to me.
So that makes me a little speechless now. And probably time to thank you again, Colin. That was brilliant. Great talking to you, and really have this feeling of having a palaver now. Like I like it. Yeah, they're talking like talking to a good old friend in a bar or in a coffee house in the morning as well. So that sounded and really feels to me like this one. So again, thank you very much, Colin, and please bring up the tunes as you did in the past, and I'm really waiting for it and looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. It's been really great talking to you, and I hope we do it again.
I hope so as well. Bye-bye, Colin. Cheers.
Okay, bye-bye.